Hi, I'm Dr. Bernard Starr with an update on the failing war on climate change. Here is the audio version of my recent op-ed, Why the Massive Climate Industry Has Failed to Make a Dent in the Climate Change Crisis and the Bold Fix We Need. It was first published at Op-Ed News on November 13th, 2025. Trillions spent, little to show. The problem isn't too little funding or too few programs, it's that the current strategy isn't working. The colossal failure of the climate industry was confirmed at the opening of the UN-sponsored conference COP30 in Belém, Brazil on November 10th, 2025. Advocates insist the solution is to spend more. But what if the problem isn't underfunding at all? What if we're spending too much, just in the wrong ways? The tragedy begins with the sheer size of the anti-climate change industry. Over the past 2 decades, a vast global enterprise spanning universities, governments, corporations, and nonprofits has taken shape. Yet the true scope of this industry remains poorly documented. This is especially evident in higher education, where climate projects proliferate at an extraordinary scale. According to 2025 statistics, there are about 50,000 universities worldwide. In a survey I conducted of more than 50 institutions across the United States and Europe, every single one had climate-related departments, often multiple ones. A simple search, such as University Name, Climate Department, readily confirms this. Some programs are interdisciplinary. Others operate within established departments like physics, biology, or sociology. Many specialize further with dedicated tracks in titles like Atmospheric and Oceanic Sciences, Earth and Environmental Sciences, Environmental Engineering, Climate Science, Environmental Studies, Geosciences, Ecology and Evolutionary Biology, Agricultural and Environmental Science, Hydrology and Water Resources, and Climate Justice and Sustainability, among even more. At many universities, dozens, sometimes over 50, or even 100 faculty members are engaged in climate research and related projects. One European university listed more than 200 devoted to climate research. Another with over 300 faculty in a department of evolutionary biology, ecology, and environmental sciences. Extrapolate this globally. Even if we were conservatively to estimate just 25 faculty members per university working on climate-related research, that would amount to roughly 1.25 million projects. Even reducing that number to only 10 faculty per university still yields an astonishing 500,000 projects, a massive intellectual force by any measure. At first glance, this might seem cause for celebration. But a troubling reality quickly emerges. We don't actually know how many of these projects exist, what they focus on, where they are based, who's behind them, or the total amount of funding. No comprehensive registry tracks this work. No central authority coordinates it. The result is a fragmented, chaotic research landscape, an oddly disorganized way to wage what is often referred to as a war on climate change. What we do know, however, is sobering. Despite this vast army of researchers, the flood of government and corporate pledges, the treaties, the international conferences, millions of activists, and $1 trillion poured annually into climate initiatives, with a whopping $18 trillion spent for climate damage since the year 2000. The world is in worse condition than when the so-called war on climate change began. The facts speak for themselves. With each passing year, global emissions rise, fossil fuel consumption and production accelerate, and planetary conditions deteriorate. In May 2025, the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration's observatory in Hawaii reported 430 parts per million of CO2 in the atmosphere, the highest ever recorded. This should serve as a deafening wake-up call. Something is profoundly wrong with how this battle is being waged. But here lies the greater flaw. There is no one to hear that call. There is no central leadership, no unifying authority, no coherent global strategy directing the massive effort to halt climate change. The futility of this leaderless approach was underscored on July 23, 2025, when the United Nations International Court of Justice issued its opinion declaring that governments' failure to take effective climate action constitutes an internationally wrongful act. But who was this spray-and-pray judgment meant to hold accountable? No central body exists to enforce it. If the message is aimed vaguely at fossil fuel-dependent nations that have already failed to honor their commitments, it is tantamount to hiring the thief to catch the thief, an empty edict with no effect. In contrast, the inability of universities and research institutions to halt climate change is not a failure of science, commitment, or intellect. Their work is vital, passionate, and often groundbreaking. The failure lies in the absence of global leadership capable of mobilizing these efforts into a unified, strategic campaign. What is urgently needed is a central authority, funded by governments, corporations, and philanthropic leaders, yet independent of them, with the mandate and resources to accelerate large-scale, high-impact technologies such as nuclear fusion and carbon capture. Carbon capture has the potential to significantly reduce atmospheric CO2, while nuclear fusion promises virtually unlimited clean energy, with minimal radioactive waste and low risk of catastrophic accidents. If developed to full commercial functionality, these technologies could not only halt the rise of global CO2 levels, but reverse them, cooling the planet and restoring climate stability. History offers a compelling model. The Manhattan Project, in just 3 years, 1942 to 1945, achieved what many considered impossible: nuclear fission. It succeeded because it had a singular mission, clear leadership, unified command, and concentrated resources, roughly only $2 billion at the time, the equivalent of 30 to 50 billion today, far short of the trillions that have already been invested in efforts to defeat climate change. Science can achieve similar breakthroughs as it did with the Manhattan Project in nuclear fusion and carbon capture if given the same structure, leadership, and urgency. This time, not to wage war, but to save life on Earth. Only when technologies capable of truly halting climate change are deployed at scale will the vast ecosystem of climate research fulfill its potential, working in concert with global initiatives to build a cleaner, healthier planet and honor our responsibility as stewards of the planet Earth. Until then, we remain caught in a tragic paradox. Millions of brilliant minds laboring with passion and purpose, yet without the unified plan or leadership needed to turn their creativity into victory in what may be humanity's most important fight. Thanks for listening. I'm Dr. Bernard Starr.